Well, it's so nice to see folks. It's I always love, you never know who's gonna, like, if we're gonna get a group or not, and this is a good group. And I appreciate everybody taking their time on this very cold Friday. I don't see that we have anybody in Aroostook County right now, but I think they win, of course, in the coldest temps across the state. So it could be worse. We could be where Mari's son is in Madawaska, where it's what, -45, I think, Mari, you said. Yeah, see, that's just, yeah, unfortunate. But it is nice to see everybody. Happy Friday. Again, I feel like it's been kind of a long, short week. I'm sure you all probably feel that way as well. And really kind of excited about our topic today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. That being said, I always give a big shout out. Appreciate Mari. Thank you again for your help with I enjoyed Slido so much at our December Lunch and Learn. I'm using it again, hopefully with the same success. We shall see. You never count your technology chickens until they happen. But really happy to be here with you all. And also, like, just again, it's hard to believe we're already over the halfway point of our new month of the new year. And again, time just seemingly flies when you're having fun and when you're as busy as I know we all are as well. Again, this is going to be hopefully an interactive session. We'll see how technology works for me again. But again, we're going to be using Slido. So if you use this in December, if you were with us, great. You can use your phone, or if you have another browser tab open on your computer, if you're working with two screens, that will work as well. Just to give you a little bit of a refresher, you can either go to slido.com and type in this number, or you can take your phone right up to the screen and do the QR code. And that will take you to our own Slido poll for this Lunch and Learn. I'll give everybody a minute to do that. If you have any problems, feel free to shout them out or put them in the chat. Not going to put Mari on the spot, but I am putting Mari on the spot. Mari, I apologize for this, but I think it went really well the last time. So hopefully we'll have the same success rate as we did in December. With that, we do have a test question. What's the best thing about the new year so far? Feel free to just chime in, whatever that may be. I'll give everybody a minute to think about it. All answers are anonymous. There is no, we can't connect any answers to you at all. So please know that. So again, what's the best thing about the new year so far? I should do Slido myself. Like, this is with me trying to talk and do too many things all at once. I like the weekly soup resolution. Still upright. That's awesome too. I'm going to give everybody a minute more to chime in. How many folks do we have? Let me see. So, yep. Okay. I wish we had more snow. I don't know if anybody else is disappointed in the amount of snow that we have so far. I am a little bit. Closer to my baby due date. I love that one. Yup. Well, this is snuggling with my knee. Oh, winter landscape. Still up longer days. We have gained like 36 minutes. If anybody checks every day like I do, because I do. And yeah, it's awesome. New staff member to partner with. These are great. I think especially as we have we have this conversation around personal sustainability. Again, I think it's always important to go back to the things that bring us joy, or the things where we derive, even small pleasures in. It's amazing. Some of you will laugh at this. Some of you will have to go Google things, but this certainly isn't one of the best things about the new year so far, but I'm going to turn it into the best thing. Many of you woke up to the news this morning that Meatloaf had passed away. Now, if you are of a certain age, you all remember and probably had the cassette tape, Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. It was an anthem, and I think I wore mine out. And this morning on my way in, I found it online and I sung it all the way to work today. And I remembered all the words. And it was amazing how much joy I felt when I came in, because again, it was just music I hadn't listened to. And it kind of took me back to a much younger day. I appreciate some smiles. Apparently other people also probably had some fondness of Meatloaf. So anyway, again, I think it's just important that we find those joys and find what brings us some happiness, and again, take some time to enjoy those things. So thank you all for participating. This is kind of a fun way to start our time today. So, and again, I appreciate the fact that people wanted to continue with these lunch and learns. It was kind of an idea just again, to increase connection. You know, a lot of times, you know, we've talked about buying technology, or, you know, we've had, you know, topics that are of interest and certainly, you know, that are useful. I wanted to make these just as an additional way for us to be able to connect, just to share information, and to learn. You know, maybe just again today learn about some new ideas or learn about some new operating mechanisms within the university, who knows. But again, this was just a time on our calendars that we could be casual. So if you're eating your lunch, great. But just to have it there as a placeholder to connect. So really appreciate the fact that people wanted these to continue, because again, that was one of our polls from December, because I don't want to waste anybody's time if nobody wants to join, but it seemed like people did. And again, just really happy to have the group on that we do today. Again, always open to topics that you may find interesting or want to learn more about. We do have a couple of the next month scheduled, but we certainly have room for more. So just feel free to reach out to any time if you have an idea or of a topic that you'd like to learn more about. So today, you know, it's amazing to me that it is a new day of a new month of a new year, but we're dealing with a lot of the same old stuff. And so today's topic of personal sustainability, I think, is timely because it is a new year, and it's when people tend to make resolutions or set new goals, or, you know, really think about being intentional of doing things differently. And the other reason for that is, again, through our work for the roadmap, from the extension roadmap, and then the steering committee, one of our final steering committees of last year in November, we spent a lot of time talking about the personal sustainability research and work that was done now 10 years ago. And I didn't know anything about it. It was previous to me getting here. And so folks shared a lot of information. I've reached out to Leslie, and I'm going to give her an opportunity to say a few words here in a minute. But it was fascinating because, again, much of what was found 10 years ago is still true today. And now we have COVID, and where are we as an organization? And again, dovetailing with this conversation is, again, the work of the steering committee in thinking about our culture and our organizational culture, and what do we support and what do we promote? What do we want our organization to be? So what I wanted to do, and I've been in touch with Leslie, and I've been in touch with Fran, and have looped in Beth in this conversation. Number one, this isn't just having the conversation today and being done with it, is where do we want this to go, and how can we learn and take some of the information from 10 years ago, see what has changed and what we need to really be aware of as we think about this moving forward, and we think about what we want our organizational culture to be, and really work towards some meaningful change to get there. And so that's the plan today. It is going to be interactive, both between Slido and actually just opening it up for some discussion as well. This is not me reading PowerPoint slides for the next 30 minutes by any means. It really is going to be a conversation. So with that, I'd welcome Leslie, just if you would like to, maybe just unmute yourselves and say unmute yourself and just say a few words about the project team and the work that was done 10 years ago, and just some maybe initial thoughts that you have now.
Sure, thank you. Well, this was really Eileen Fortune, who's now retired, a faculty member, and she was really instrumental in this project happening and cared very deeply about the well-being of our organization. We had a great team. Do you have, if you scrolled, I don't know if you can scroll down to get like everybody's name.
Right there.
Oh yeah, so there it is. So
Yep.
a lot of folks are still here. So Sue and Mark and John and Ryder and Sheila has since retired, Linda retired, and Frank is still here. So it's pretty, so I mean, we cared about and we're curious about what was happening within the organization, because you would kind of hear rumblings sometimes, like from various people. And we were curious how well we were taking care of ourselves, what was contributing to that, what could the organization do. So if you look at, there are some documents I'm happy to send out, maybe we'll revisit them, but we really thought about what happens at the individual level, what happens within the groups that we're a part of, what happens with the organization as a whole. So it's really this kind of an ecological model. If you think about where you start the individual, but then it really branches out. And how do we build in strategies for self-care and care for others within each of those circles? So what do we do for ourselves? But then also, what are supervisory relationships like? That was one kind of unit that we looked at. And then got a lot of quotes about people, what was actually happening on the ground. So I think it's all still very ripe for conversation.
Yeah, and thank you, Leslie. And I absolutely agree. I think it's very ripe for conversation, and again, very timely. You know, to revisit. It is. I appreciate folks saying, I can't believe it was 10 years ago. And it is great that we do have, and Frank, I appreciate your comment as well, that we do have a core contingent of folks that have served on this team, but certainly I think too, again, there's probably a great deal of renewed interest as we really think about this, especially coming out of COVID, where this has certainly been at the forefront of a lot of discussions. It's all in the news and a lot of the things that we read and those things and those type of things. I understand, you know, this is a very busy slide that you see before you, and really I'm not going to read it to you. Leslie did share, you know, reports and notes, and it was wonderful research. And I feel like, you know, I just pulled out 3 quotes that, is it 10 years ago or is it yesterday? I mean, these would be just as, I think we would still find these quotes in this organization today. You know, again, the COVID, you know, and layer upon that COVID. I also love this quote as we talk about our energy needs and where we derive our energy from. And we're going to talk about that as well. So again, realize that this is very busy. It wasn't meant for me to read. It was just meant to just show, you know, where we were 10 years ago. And again, probably still where we are today in a lot of this work. When Leslie shared the documents, this first paragraph, or this first sentence, was the top of the research report. And I would say that our goal is still the same. You know, we want to support a successful staff that does excellent work in an organizational climate that supports the pursuit of work-life balance and personal sustainability. I don't see that having changed in 10 years. And so again, how are we going to go towards that goal? What are we going to do different? You know, what does this look like now in extension? So this is where I didn't use Slido, because I really wanted and was hopeful that people would chime in, either by unmuting your mic or maybe by putting some, you know, some comments in the chat. but in 10 years, and by we, I mean the extension organization. So many of you have been around for the 10 years, and please know too, this is, be brutally honest. Certainly I don't think probably we've done as well as we could have, seeing that there are still a lot of opportunities for growth in this area. Again, the last 2 years now have been COVID. Nobody could have seen a global pandemic, certainly, and that interfacing with these challenges already. So just any thoughts of in 10 years, how have we done in this regard? And if you choose not to answer that question, you could also go to answer what has changed in 10 years individually and or organizationally. And we'll just assume that COVID has changed us all, so we won't need to say anything about COVID if there are other things. And Frank, I saw you appear and unmute yourself, so I'm assuming you might have a comment.
I was just going to note that one of the things that I remember we talked about a lot when we were meeting was this extension badge of honor that a lot of us, when we say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, really busy. And the oh, I'm really busy, I can't catch up with myself. And that was sort of almost a code or justification for overworking and living stressed. And I still see that today. I mean, I think there's a little bit more balance that, in the organization, but of course, going through COVID, we all started burning the candles every which way. So anyway, that's just one quick observation.
Yeah, I think that's a great one, right? Because I mean, wouldn't it be great if the badge of honor was, I feel really good, or I am having, I'm finding a great work-life balance, or, that would, imagine that. I don't know if that happens anywhere, but it would be great.
I think to follow up or to add to what Jessica said in the chat is, Hannah, without seeing these reports or seeing this focus, you said things to our organization like, we're not doing brain surgery, and take your vacation time. I hope people are taking their time. So those things, I think, you were setting a new culture for us, and we were paying attention. And I think that really fed right into the kinds of things that came out of this work. So you passed the test without even reading the material.
I agree with that 100%. And I am so pleased this is coming up again. I was pleased when it came up the first time. I think the fact that leadership cares that we are healthy, outside of work as well, and happy, that is absolutely awesome. I remember one of the concrete things that came out of this the first time was that John Rebar stopped sending emails in the middle of the night, which was giving us all like, oh, I guess we all have to be up in the middle of the night and be sending emails too. That was a great example. I'm not sure how well we've actually done though, beyond that. One of the things I've noticed that has not stopped is when somebody leaves, retires, or leaves the organization, their work tends to be divvied up to the people that are left behind. And as I'm moving towards retirement, I worry about that for my team, about what will happen with my work, because I've certainly seen that happen to me. I am still doing work that our editor did more than 10 years ago, that our videographer did more than 8 years ago. Since Michelle, Logic has left as well. That's tough on employees. That is tough.
Yep. Those are really good points, Cindy. I appreciate them. And Fran, I appreciate, and again, it does start from the top too. And you've got to not only say the words, but reinforce them, and also share too, that I try to do what I say as well. So it is hard to change a culture though. One especially that has been deeply embedded as it has been here. Jessica.
Well, I would say something that helps us on that track is the extension roadmap and the reflection work that came out of that, of identifying things that we can let go of, looking at restructure and different programs. Because when someone retires, we do lose all of that longevity and that history in that person. At the same time, we're struggling to fill jobs, and we're not necessarily filling the same types of positions. And so that we spent that time on the extension roadmap, sharing our thoughts, that also needs to continue to be in the forefront of our mind in conjunction with the personal sustainability. Because I think all of us feel that when someone retires, we just kind of absorb. And then that's a near impossible job for a new employee to take on. And it leaves the rest of us just kind of caring more as we go throughout our careers. And that doesn't leave you feeling the best in your career, that every year just feels like a little bit more.
Yep. All really good thoughts. And please know too that I'm not going to read everything in the chat. I see it all, and I do log the comments from the chat in my notes on these. So please know that they will not get lost, or that they are for naught. I saw Lynn, I think I just saw you unmute.
Yeah, I haven't been here for 10 years, so I don't know what 10 years was like, but 5 years ago when I came, it's almost 6 now, I came out of a retail background. And to me, the culture here was so different because retail was literally 24/7. But I feel in the last few years, we're moving towards the retail version of life because of how connected we are. And then I get kind of like up against a brick wall when you deal with the university, which is on a completely different type of calendar with different focuses and different, frenetic times and then quiet times. And I feel like sometimes it's not appreciated that we are fully year round at Extension. We don't have large breaks. We don't have, like when you work with somebody at the university and, the week before Christmas until, the week after New Year's, and they're nowhere to be found because they're on break, and you're like, oh, okay. So I think we kind of have not necessarily an identity problem, but I think we're like trying to be everything to everybody, and that's a little hard.
I agree, Lynn. I think that goes a long ways. It's kind of like, again, our badge of honor as we talk about that being everything to everybody. This has been great, and I very much appreciate the comments and the conversation. One of the things about these lunch and learns is 45 minutes kind of goes quickly. So just moving on, as we talk about, and again, I love that Tony Schwartz quote that was in the report around energies, and I'm a big I use this in a lot of my language as well. What brings me energy, and then what saps the energy from me. And so I just would love to just see or hear from you all. I think it'd be fun just to say, how do you renew your energy? What does that look like? I'll be quiet for a minute as people I thought it would be fun just to see how people renew their energy.
Hannah, is this a outside of work question? Like,
you know what? Inside, outside, however you want to derive it. Somebody else derives energy from their barn. I appreciate that very much. you know, as it's fun to read these, and Leslie, I think that was a great question to ask, because you know, I feel like the negative connotations with work often is, well, work just sucks the life right out of me. So then I go home and I've got to, take a walk in nature or go to the barn or whatnot. But there are elements of our jobs that really, and I love, creative teamwork. There are actually parts of being the dean that actually bring me energy and that I really, really enjoy, and that like something like these conversations and this work, I derive a lot of energy from the collaborations and hearing from you all. And so again, I think that's important to note that we can derive energy at both places. And I hope there are parts of your job, I would hope that a good part of your job you derive some energy from as well. I think it's just, again, trying to find that balance and what can we do. And it's really interesting, on the days of work that really, really just take all the energy from us, what does that look like when you go home, and do you have enough time to recharge your batteries, or the weekends? I spent a lot of time reading over the break because it was a catch up, and I love, that's how I derive my energy as well. I see that other people love to read too, and I completely agree with this is, I'm changing my mindset as, we shouldn't have to have weekends and vacations to recharge our batteries. What can we do to build a culture and build an organization where we can get to our vacations and actually not feel like all of our energy has been depleted and it takes us days to just get in the vacation mode? Is that great to read in a book? Sure. But I mean, I really thought about that over the break, is wouldn't it be great that people, took time off from work and felt energized instead of needing to take a couple of days to just recharge their batteries? So just things to think about. And again, I'm really happy to be having this conversation as well. Now I think it's hugely timely. So thank you all for these great responses. The next one, and we're going to talk about what's been done in the 10 years, but just, and some people already kind of mentioned this either in the chat. I've got too many screens going on here. Some folks already mentioned this in the chat, but and these are just top of mind thoughts. We're going to dive into this a little more, certainly in the next few months. But are there things that we as an extension community, and I feel like I say community because I don't think it's just administration, it's what can we do to support each other? What can we do to, so I used extension community offer to support the members of our community. And so just wanted some just brainstorming ideas. And again, this isn't going to be the only opportunity to provide this feedback, but just wanted to get some initial thoughts. Maybe we can't do anything. It's interesting, the backup of position. I'm still learning Slido, so there's too many options as far as polls and bubbles and word clouds and things like that. So, but it's working. That's the important. These are all great, and again, we can save these and we'll take all this just these ideas and add them to kind of the Google folder that I have going on this. But these are all great. Thank you all for find a way to remove negative attitudes. That, yeah. cross-department collaborations. Meetings. This is all awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. Again, I appreciate the responses. I'm going to move on. I did want to, I think it really give a shout out to not only the team, 10 years ago, but also the follow through because, they really did a great job in providing activities, organization-wide activities that supported this work. And again, that's kind of why I asked the question previously is, what else could we do? Is it time to develop a new list? Could we look at some, potential workshops? I loved seeing a Tandberg. Anybody fire up their Tandberg at any point in time in the last, I don't know. Oh, sorry, Jessica. Never mind. Apparently the Tanglewood still needs some Tangbergs. I can't even say it now. Support because I'm laughing too hard. But I do appreciate very much. I loved reading again the work that the team did. Was it monthly like kind of activities and things like that they I'm sorry, I'm distracted now by the use of Tandbergs, apparently. I thought we were all Zoom. But anyway, I really appreciate this good work that was done. And again, what could we continue? What should we add? Again, these are all, I think, good topics for further discussion. So again, big shout out to the team and their work. Apparently, again, that went right up into 2018 with the one-day work-life balance all organization meeting that occurred. So I say this, is it time for an update? I think it is. I think we've already mentioned that. This really stemmed, as I said, from the steering committee. I'm not all about forming new committees for the sake of forming committees, but I do believe that it is a good time for us to revisit, see where we're at, see what we need, especially as we're, working through the roadmap process and really thinking about the type of organization that we want to be and the culture that goes along with that organization. So with that, I'm wide open. If you want to shoot me an email and say, hey, I'd be interested in working on this. I don't know what that might look like. I think, we would have to figure that out. I don't want to put more work on anybody. But if you have an interest in this, certainly I think there's going to be an opportunities to engage with it and engage within the organization. So again, I just leave that open for you to shoot me an email if you have some interest. What my thought is that maybe in the later spring, possibly April or May, we could come back with another lunch and learn, with some ideas, with some more concrete steps of moving forward in the organization of what this might look like. So I just put that out there just as an FYI. Again, I don't want to add more work to anybody around a work-life balance because I feel like that's probably not a good thing to do. I'm a big fan, even if you don't want to read his books, of Adam Grant. He does have a TED Talk. He has a couple books that are out. They're great. He also has an awesome, if you're on Instagram, follow him on Instagram because he does a daily kind of just screen like this. And believe it or not, this was yesterday's post of his. And talk about timely as we, I was like, oh my gosh, this was like, I kind of looked around, I was like, oh my, this is, I couldn't not include this because again, I feel like it leads to what Frank started with of that badge of honor. In a lot of cultures, it is, being a workaholic that's the badge of honor is like, oh, all of those things, we've heard them. And again, I really would love Extension to be a healthy culture. where we're having a life and a quality of life is what we celebrate. And so I could not include this today. And again, encourage you all to follow him, and they truly, he has some great books. He also has a podcast. I've only listened to one episode. If you're a podcaster though, you might want to check that out. So with that, I have talked a lot. Just as I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just open it up for some dialogue. I did want to just put this on your radar screens, is that our next Lunch and Learn is February 18th. Our topic is Taming the Email Monster, which is, I think, awesome. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing and just open it up for any just general conversation for the next 8 minutes or so.
I had a thought about how the younger folks who are joining our organization, how their view toward work might be different than the older generation. So I don't have a, I don't have a conclusion about that or information to share about that, but it's something that I wonder in the context of personal sustainability. And maybe a related thought is one of the things that came away from the work that was done was the idea that there were some people who really thrive, who perceive that that's the way they want to do their life, is to be, working many, many hours and all that, and taking on lots and lots of projects. And like, seemed to me that no matter what the conditions were around them, that was what they chose. And, from my point of view, that's fine. I mean, it's, you could be encouraged just so much. So those are just a couple of thoughts related to this.
One sort of long-term perception that I can share is I can remember when I started with Extension in Oxford County in 1987. It was the first time I ever heard of email. And at that time, the only people in our organization that were using it was the classified staff. And it was just going between them. And then, of course, it wasn't long after that when we all started. I mean, we didn't all have desktop, we didn't all have laptops or computers. I mean, it was just the start of the computer generation. And when I look at where we are now with that, and that, what Hannah's saying about taming the email monster, and I have to be honest, most of I'm in my last year of Extension, and one of the things I look forward to most is not having that email monster. And I think about the culture that the young people are coming into today and how just different it was. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't work hard, but we met more, we related, we talked on the phone, we went to meetings, and everything has just turned on its head so much that, and that all add, like Lynn said, about our connectivity. So it's just, I guess I'm being reflective.
As a slightly younger, probably towards the younger side of things, one of the things that I do not like about the younger generation that I belong to is this constant need to create the newest, and I think we see it a lot doing work with different organizations serving young people. Oh, this group is connecting on Slack, and this group is connecting through Google Docs, and this, is there a way, and this is probably like way bigger idea than is truly possible, but what streamlining can happen to say, this is where we go for this is where we go for that, maybe internally even, because like we have folks, I use OneDrive a lot, but I also use Google Drive a lot. Like, are there pieces that, we'll never be able to really condense? Or is there a way that we could potentially do that to make it a little more clean or clear? So it's not so hectic, or you spend just as much time finding, oh, where is that group's stuff saved, when we can truly get to, like you were saying, Frank, get to a meeting. And even if it is a virtual meeting because people are all over the state, what is possible for us to kind of streamline or just clean up and make it a little bit easier for ourselves, just because I love when a new technology or a new app or a new thing makes it easier for us, but are we also actually making it harder for ourselves because we have 7 new different things happening at once? So don't necessarily always go along with my generation, but
This is an awesome conversation. This is what I'm going to derive my energy from today. So I really appreciate this. We are approaching 12:15. Any final thoughts? As I said, we're gonna take this all and start it as a kind of a relaunch maybe of this work. Certainly if you have an interest, reach out to me. Again, we don't want to make this cumbersome, but would really like to, again, I always use, I like words of the year, and I want to be intentional with this work, and again, intentional with your time and whatnot. But I do feel like we are onto something here, and it would be great to update 10 years later and think about this as we move forward. And again, this will, as I mentioned before, align really nicely with the work the steering committee is doing around our roadmap and our organizational culture. So any final thoughts before we say goodbye this afternoon? Well, it is wonderful to see you all. I hope you stay warm wherever you are in the respective part of the state. I hope you find ways this weekend to find some joy, derive your energy. For those, again, of the younger generation who have never heard of Meatloaf, go download a Meatloaf song. I recommend Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. And have a great weekend, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you all as we tame the email monster. I agree with you, Frank, in February. So thank you all.